Hello and welcome to another House of Wisdom knife review. Today we have a treat for you. We're going to be looking at the Three River Manufacturing Neutron knife. Three River Manufacturing is a knife company based out of Massachusetts. It was a famous knife reviewer in 2018 that named this knife their Knife of the Year, which intrigued me. I had to get one, but it wasn't so easy getting one. You have to get on their mailing list, and they drop batches periodically, and when a batch is ready, they email you with the time that the drop time is going to happen and a link to their Spreezy.com site, and then you try to get there and you refresh and try to be the person that within milliseconds is one of the guys that gets one of the knives. Well, we'll talk about the specifications of the knife first. The blade is a 3-inch blade having a 4.1-inch handle. My handle scales are made out of carbon fiber, giving a total knife length of 7.1 inches and a weight of 3.2 ounces. We'll compare it to some similarly sized knives. Firstly, we have the Para 3, which is made by Spyderco. It has a similarly sized blade. The handle is a little bit larger, I believe. We have the Hinder XM18, which is a similarly sized knife. Again, the blade is about the same. The handle may be a little bit longer. And then we have the Browse knife here, the Browse Spectre, and it is about the same size knife. And the blade is a drop point blade with a high flat ground, and then just a little bit here on top, enough to accommodate their maker's mark is flat. It is PVC coated, and the blade steel is 20 CV, and this is the same formula of steel as the Bowler M390 or the Carpenter Steel CTS 204P. The blade stock is very thin, coming in at 86 1/1000ths, and it has a high grind. It makes it an excellent slicer. The spine of the knife is smooth. There isn't any jimping, but it's not really a hard use knife, and I don't think that it needs it. The method of deployment of the knife is by the thumb stud, and I'll get a close-up on it here. You can tell that it has a little like a roof thing that you can catch your thumb on it easily enough. I'm just going to say the part that's conical at the top isn't really sharp, but if you use it, it can sort of dig into your thumb and not be very comfortable. I want to contrast this with some other thumb stud configurations. Here is the Chris Reeve Sabenza, and it has a conical thumb stud, and it isn't as hard on your thumb. Unless you poke your thumb on the top, it can bite you. But it's a little bit more comfortable, I think, than the Three Rivers form. I think the most comfortable thumb stud made is this by Maxpedia. It's the Excelsior, where the thumb stud is sort of ramped with some ridges for traction. And I wish more manufacturers would use this style of thumb stud because it's very comfortable to use. I think, for me, one of the most uncomfortable thumb studs would be the Southern Grind Spider Monkey. It has this sharp top, and then it has areas for grip, which you certainly do get good grip on it, but if you flip this too many times, it starts to dig into your thumb and it's pretty uncomfortable. So this is comfortable if you just flip it a few times, but I think that as far as a fidget toy goes, if you were to do this 100 times, you would come away with a bruised tip of your thumb. So anyway, but it gets good purchase on your thumb whenever you flip it out. We'll talk about the handle scales. The scales are just overlays. They're not structural. They have 2 screws that screw into the metal frame. And here are 2 screws too. On the clip side, you have to remove the clip to get to the second screw. But just 4 screws and both scales come off. And they do not attach to the pivot. The pivot just stays and remains. This knife functions perfectly well without the handle scales. There are many variations you can replace them with. There's G10, micarta, and I have the carbon fiber here. Very swappable. The knife has 3 non-shouldered back spacers that give it structural importance to take it. It has a flow-through design, so it's easy to clean out, and there isn't any internal milling because the frame is so thin on this, or the liners, depending on how you view it. The pivot rides on phosphoron washers and is a free-spinning, non-captive pivot, and it's undone with a T10 Torx bit on both sides. The lock, some would call it a liner lock, some would call it a frame lock, depending on what your philosophy is. If your philosophy is it's a liner lock, if it looks like a liner lock, you would call this a liner lock. If you cared about what is the structural integrity of the knife, you might call it a frame lock, and I'm going to give you an example of what I'm talking about. For example, this is the Viper Storm, and it is a frame lock, I would say, and it has these G10 overlays that are not structural. You can take them off, and it doesn't affect the structure of the knife. So I would call this a frame lock with some G10 overlays. Looking at the Spyderco Positron, the frame and the structure is the carbon fiber, and the carbon fiber is held together, and the liner screws into the carbon fiber. In other words, the carbon fiber is the structure of the knife, and then the liner lock attaches to the frame, which is carbon fiber. And I would call this a liner lock. If you use that definition on this lock, these handle scales are basically just overlays. They overlay the whole thing, but they're still overlays. You can take these G10 overlays off, and the knife functions just fine, just like a frame lock would. So some would call this a frame lock, others because it looks like a liner lock would just call it a liner lock, and I'll let you guys decide on that, which is which. We'll talk about the pocket clip now. The pocket clip is a bent metal, surface mounted with 3 screws pocket clip, has good clearance, and it fits into your pocket just very nicely. No problems there. The ergonomics of the knife, it's a thin knife, which I like about it. It's easy to carry in the pocket. The ergonomics are fine. There's no problem there. There is no jimping on the front, so there's nothing to rub up your thumb there. The signature on the knife is minimal. On the show side, all you have on the blade is the Three River Manufacturing logo, which is etched in and looks very nice. And on the other side, if you hold it away, it looks like it's sterile. But if you get it in the light, you see that there is on the blade, because it's PVC coated, TRM USA 20CV, the steel designation and the manufacturer and the location of origin. But if you held it like this, you could think that, wow, this is sterile. So it's subtly done, and I think it's tasteful. The value on the knife, how much is this? I have the most expensive version with the coated blade and the carbon fiber scales, and it's $199, just a little under $200. The less expensive versions go down to $160. So what do I think about the Three Rivers Manufacturing Neutron? I really like it. Are there opportunities for improvement? One of the opportunities for improvement is just availability. They can't make these things fast enough. They come in limited drops, which are sold out almost immediately in milliseconds. So you got to really get there earlier on their site. Another thing I think is the thumb stud. It doesn't hurt if you just do it once or twice, but if this is going to be used as a fidget toy, it can be a little hard on your thumb with repetitive use. What do I like about it, though? I like that the scales are swappable. If you like G10, micarta, carbon fiber, you can switch them out, and it's easily customizable. I also like it because it's a thin knife. The handle is only 0.35 inches. The blade stock is 86 1/1000th in thickness, and it's a great slicer because of its lightness and thinness, and it's easily carryable. And it's light. It's only 2.3 ounces. That is an easy EDC to carry. So in summary, the Three Rivers Manufacturing Neutron is a great knife. It's thin, it's light, it's easily customizable. I think you're really going to like it. Well, if you liked the video, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you on the next House of Wisdom knife review video.